This is terrible banter.
Yeah, I
I think we've
assume
said,
she's just gonna pick and choose anything that, and then just it'll be like 3 seconds, and then it'll go right to
yeah. All right. You ready? You want to do this thing?
rock and roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Raising Spirits. I'm Will,
I'm Nate.
and we are New Standard. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everybody. We took a little break for the holidays, but we're back at it like a crack addict. Here to give you some insights into what we're seeing in the world of business, culture, leadership, hospitality, and all things in between. Hopefully for your listening pleasure, but hopefully at least for your listening.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
how was your Christmas?
To- oh, long story, delightful. But more importantly, I got a bottle of Redbreast 12-year here that I know you'd like.
Do remember it well. Had it at least once before with you, in a unconventional location.
Yeah, nothing better than a U-Haul cab and a half hour, 45-minute tops move. That's how most of mine go.
Yeah, Nate asked me to help him move, as friends do, and hour tops, Plus, I got whiskey for you, so I'm in. Obviously, about 6 hours later, we enjoyed a nice whiskey flight before we unloaded the U-Haul. You got your money's worth out of that rental.
Yeah, I didn't calculate well. I'm more of a, talk someone into paying the fence for me as opposed to calculating the amount of time it takes to take apart beds and load them into a U-Haul. So at least I got you out of the power outage.
That's fair. Yeah. If that was in the ballpark, that ballpark is the old Polo Grounds out in Baltimore. There. That's baseball reference for you.
Yeehaw. Is it spring yet?
Not soon enough. That is good though.
You, hit,
That
you
is.
hitting up spring training this year?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we'll be there. We won't be in the West until next year. We'll be for the listeners or viewers, depending on what you identify as. We're not here to judge. Me and my wife and our dogs and cat are back on the road. We've spent about a year and a half on the road before we started the podcast, and we're back on the road now. We're coming to you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. I've been here for about 2 weeks at the time of recording, which when you're listening to it, who the hell knows when that is? So don't confine me.
Yeah. That was a good wedding down there. Only time I've been in New Orleans. Go figure. There
Favorite
was
place in the
cops
world,
on
man.
horses.
We want to
Yeah.
talk about the hospitality industry. This is a microcosm of everything. Every industry represented, obviously, hotels, restaurants, bars, but a lot of niche, a lot of unique things that fall into the hospitality here. Big concierge business, a lot of high-end business here. So personal shoppers, personal assistants, a very big affluent community on the west side of town that really employs a piece of the hospitality business that we probably don't talk about a lot, but we'll get to it in a future episode of Raising Spirits. Right
Yeah,
now,
buddy.
as we
It was about
enjoy. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it was about the whole experience for me, from touchdown to take off. I didn't know what to expect, and man, between the food, the bands, obviously the drinks, the
Yep.
main street that we partied on all night after the wedding, top to bottom, it was great. Plus, I got to see Manny Fresh in the airport on the way out, so that was icing on the cake.
The great man Manny Fresh. I've yet to see a real celebrity encounter, unless you count seeing Harry Connick Jr., but I don't think you know who that is. Now, as we enjoy a nice red breast here, and I am enjoying it, and I'll probably enjoy another. We recently we're listening to another podcast. That's right, there are other podcasts, although don't go looking for them. Go ahead and just stick with this one. David Chang, great chef and someone I've admired for some time. I got to enjoy his restaurant Co. before he shut that down in New York City. But he was on a podcast, and he was bringing up the fact that younger people are drinking so much less that it's taking a toll on the bottom lines of restaurants.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of that actually through our board at Kent State over the past couple of years. That obviously the food and beverage, that beverage ticket's been dwindling some, and they're having to get more and more creative on a quarterly basis to see one, where it's lacking, but two, what they can do to kind of revitalize that beverage tab.
That is Professor Nate Geeson referencing his. Are you still ad hoc faculty, or what do you want to call that there?
Adjunct. Sounds
sure
close
you do,
to ad hoc, I guess. Yeah. Just the casino operations management class is what I've focused on the past 2 years. So, spoken in other hospitality and event management classes, but right now that one's my niche. That's what I know, and every semester I get a nice fresh bundle of new minds that are open and moldable and engaged. Obviously, who wouldn't want to take a 3-credit course where the grand finale is a trip to Vegas, placed in the middle of the semester, and tour 6 to 10 properties in depth and behind the scenes, and get our young minds kind of invigorated into the what the casino and gaming operations area looks like. And so I got about 30% of my students over the past few years have been our hospitality and event management majors, and then the other 60% roughly is other various majors. And what I always tell them is the casino is like kind of its own little world, where although you may be in analytics or construction or criminal justice, finance, marketing, business, you can find a role inside of a casino, even though you might not be thinking about it. So it's good because it opens up kind of their minds to other jobs that maybe they didn't have in the pipe here, because a lot of them are seniors and graduating in May. But yeah, it's a great trip, and looking forward to it. I was gonna mention, we handled the booking of flights and the hotel rooms for next month just recently, and it's been good to see Vegas kind of coming around, because we definitely had to tailor our trip around some peak times out there.
Yeah, Vegas making a big comeback. I was just reading an article recently about even though there was an 11% decline after F1, after the Super Bowl, after all these big marquee events, the trends are looking huge for Vegas and destination casinos as a whole. Looking forward into 26 here, future bookings, group bookings, convention bookings, all up huge, paying some dividends on those investments.
Yeah, it's great to see, obviously, as someone from the industry, but just in general, again, the mecca of gaming out there. It's constantly that I'm hearing, friends, family, and colleagues that, have their conventions out there, and every year that I'm out there, I'm running into all these guys with lanyards, in the elevators and such. So, again, great to see them continuing, and I know, between the stadiums that they have out there and teams, with sports betting being all over the country now, they really have to focus on some of these other niche things that they have out there besides just betting on sports.
Yeah, I think the last time I looked at the statistics was several years ago, but only about a third of the revenue for these places in Vegas was coming from gaming. Everything else was coming from hotel dining, retail, experiential things. There's so much more to it, and the more they lead into that, I think that's really, both for Vegas and for just destination markets as a whole, obviously, coming from Laughlin and Tahoe, respectively, myself and Nate. Looking at the destinations versus the local, so much more they're able to offer than just a slot machine or a table game.
Yeah, I was actually just had a young student up and coming, wanting to go into the casinos, but wanted to really get into the event side of things. I think to our local market here, we don't really have, and never did. We attempted, but didn't have much success on the banquet side of things. and another one who's in kind of cosmetology background and such, looking at getting into spas. I think esthetician is what she was, or going to school for. And again, when I talk about all these different silos, when it comes to a casino, the resorts are what really truly have it all. So, and we've talked a couple podcasts ago, I think, about just experience in general, and how it's so important that it's not just about, just the physical or tangible product, but it's what you take away from it, the memories and overall, we got so many establishments out there that don't even necessarily require you to be 21 to step foot on their floor, and they have other venues and areas for, under 21-year-old, kids or family or friends if you're bringing them. So it's definitely, it's got it all for everyone. So
yeah, it's so hard as a local place to make that impression. The average time between trips in Vegas is 13 months for frequent visitors. So if you're seeing somebody once a year, it's way easier to make an impact than when you're seeing them twice a week. So much more has to go into those local places. It seems easier because you got the built-in business and you don't have to worry about flights, transportation, hotels in a lot of cases. All those things seem like benefits, but it's so much harder to do, to make an experience, to make an impression on a customer when you're seeing them so often. Those are the folks that are seeing the warts and the tears in the carpet, all the things that you would ignore if you were walking through a Vegas casino, you're going to see when you're walking through your local casino. So much harder.
Absolutely. Give a little appreciation to everyone fighting that battle here now that we're out of it.
Shout out to our local friends there, yeah.
That's it.
And so much when you're looking at a consolidated weekend of play, especially when you're seeing people only once a year, that's their big outlet, letting off steam, what have you. You could do, like you said, so much bigger events. I remember one of the marquee events in Laughlin was the River Regatta. We would take 5 or 6 sets of 2 10-man rafts and raft down the Colorado River with a dinghy towing behind, chock full of beer and whatnot, and just spend a good 4 or 5 hours floating down the river with all of our best players. No gaming attached to it, just a unique experience that we're able to offer. I know Tahoe had a lot of the same kind of things along those lines as well.
Oh yeah, Jumbo Lazy River. That's up my alley for sure. We had the Tahoe Star, the yacht that we'd take out and take our VIP players and obviously the limo to and from, and that experience is when you can offer that, gives you a whole different bundle of ammo to use at your discretion as whether player development or on the marketing side. So.
Something else nostalgic that I've been reading about recently, or I should say listening to, good old NPR doing a little story on nostalgia in dining and how a lot of chain restaurants are really making a comeback. The younger generation is getting nostalgic for the good old days. Obviously Applebee's was in that country song not that long ago. Ashley will have to put a clip here.
Yeah, we fancy like Applebee's on a date night.
But I remember that was in the song. Hopefully we have the rights to use that.
Nope.
Otherwise, use your imagination, everyone.
Shit.
But nostalgia being huge, I know you and I are no stranger to an affordable restaurant or two. And I thought it might be a good time to discuss a little nostalgia of our own, with a little smash or pass on these classic chain restaurants. First up, Olive Garden. I'm passing every time.
Did you just ask yourself?
I
thought you were asking me. Yeah,
I'm asking you.
I'm passing.
I'm asking myself at the same time.
Give me some of them banana peppers and all-you-can-eat salad, but I don't want anything else. Keep your breadsticks. Give me some fazoli's.
There you go. There's I can make anything Olive Garden at home just as good and save myself a tip in a trip. Red Lobster, I'm passing as well.
Yeah, I don't see them for seafood. They got the Bahama Mama and the Mega Mama. I could see a big drink or something, but I don't see them for seafood, so I'm passing.
I will give them a shout out for reinventing themselves. They were on the cusp of bankruptcy, and they may have actually gone into bankruptcy, but they were on the cusp of not existing, and they realized their value proposition. They changed some things up. Still got some problems.
Was it the cheese biscuits?
Cheddar Bay biscuit. Those are. I will take those. I don't want to eat any of the rest of their food, but if you drop those off with one of those big old drinks, I'm all about it. TGI Fridays.
Pass.
Same. Ever since I saw Waiting in the biatch of the day, I'm not down with anything with those
What'd you see?
road signs on the wall. Not interested. I don't believe I've ever been the biatch of the day for any restaurant. But yeah, just a generic, TGI Fridays, Applebee's. I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones that were similar that I can't think of right now. All a very similar vibe of just regular food served in a neon atmosphere.
I'll pour one up for Applebee's because their late night menu when I was in school was a pretty good deal, and so they're, I think, half off apps and such. So from a value perspective, they were it. But and I think they went a little bacon burger heavy later to kind of catch the different demographic maybe. But it's not anything to write home about. But yeah, when you need something at a good price, that late night half off menu hit.
Now, when you're going fancy steakhouses, what are your thoughts here? You got Outback. Outback I loved when I was young because it felt fancy. But
yeah, you started that off with fancy. So I don't think of Outback. I think of Foster's beer, Australian for beer.
James Boag's Ale. They don't serve it anymore, but back when I was young, that was one of the beers they had there that was from Australia. That was some good stuff. I could do a Bloomin' Onion. I'm no...
I'll dabble with that. That's about it. I think the last ribeye or something I ordered from there was, stretched like a shoelace. And, yeah, I'm not in. Pass on that.
Same for me with Longhorn. I'm not a Longhorn guy. It fills its niche, but that's not nothing to write home about, like you said.
They got some firecracker shrimp I can get down on, and maybe they're smoked wings. I'm assuming they're smoked, but they got some tender wings. But again, you go to a place for consistency, and you hope that it's like it was the last time, and all of a sudden you get something a little different, and it throws you off.
That's the nostalgia factor. That's the whole idea. For my money, actually, if I'm going to a chain steakhouse, I will, and I'm not talking about a Fleming's or anything like that. Totally go to a Texas Roadhouse. All about that.
Yeah, if they ever got rid of the peanuts, I'd join you. But yeah, I stepped foot in and I stepped right back out.
That's part of the benefit. I know I'm not going to run into Nate when I'm at a Texas Roadhouse. Chili's, I'm for. I'm a big Chili's guy. That was the fanciest restaurant in town I could afford when I was growing up. So that was date night every week. It was Chili's. Some ribs, a Presidente Margarita. I'm all about it.
It's got the best jingle. I'll give it that.
I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back ribs.
Oh, you can't beat baby back ribs. It's been what, 20 years since I debuted that, and that's still in everybody's head. So, Cheesecake Factory. I'm not a huge fan of the food, but I'm a huge fan of the workers. The folks that have to remember that big of a menu, and moreover, anybody who has an opportunity to hire a cook, if they've got experience at the Cheesecake Factory, that person knows how to remember recipes and how to multitask for sure.
Yeah, don't they make a lot of it from scratch too?
Yeah, everything's scratch. It is a remarkably small feeling operation with a gigantic menu and presence. It's very impressive, the back of house situation there for sure.
It's kind of just like a mind fuck though, because I think of factory and then I see this place that looks like a borderline Aladdin castle, like
I feel like there's going to be human sacrifice every time. It makes no sense. Why do I have a cheesecake temple? Like, a factory would make sense. They'd make it look like a factory. But no, it looks like the Cheesecake Temple of Doom. And they're about to pull the heart out of a cheesecake. Well, it's still beaten.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I've never ate there.
Oh, really? I would have thought you'd been a Cheesecake Factory guy. I really would. Just because
they're just the nuts. I'm not a sweets guy.
There's always going to be something. Well, it's not. Let me let you in on a secret. It's not just cheesecake.
Well,
oh yeah,
they lost me with the name.
Good thing you got the hat on, keeping the top of your head from blowing off. IHOP. We talked about Denny's the other day. Denny's and IHOP kind of interchangeable to me a little bit. IHOP, I got some really good memories when I was a kid. Denny's memories when I'm a little older, but both of those definitely got a place in the lexicon of nostalgic food places here.
I'll give IHOP I'll let it slide in. I'll let it smash. One thing I can say about the IHOPs that I've been to is that they've been very clean compared to some of the, not just some of these other restaurants, but breakfast places. And for some reason, that's what I need when I'm going to eat. So I need some place that makes me feel comfortable.
Now, I love IHOP. IHOP, fuck you. No, when they became IHOP, International House of Burgers, no, the burgers are trash. Fuck that. Do one thing and full ass it. Don't do two things and half ass it.
Never half-ass two things. Whole ass one thing.
Shout out Ron Swanson. Hey Nate, you know what I fucking hate?
Tell me about it.
And I'm also wondering what the fuck is this, just to tie that in. Self-check. And let me tell you why.
What's wrong with it?
First of all, when it first came out, I loved self-check. Being able to avoid a little bit of a line when it was kind of a voluntary option, and you'd see 2 or 3 people in each one. You got a couple 3 items. Go through the self-check. I'm all about it. And this is, I feel like Andy Rooney bitching about old people shit right now. But the dependence on self-check now is starting to irritate me. Now I know that's been going on for years in the grocery space, but now it's starting to creep into other spaces. Obviously, places like Walmart, Target, your department stores per se, have been picking it up. But I was right before Christmas, which was probably a bad time to do it. I was at Michael's, because I'm a crafty fella. I like to get my craft on. Not
craft
really.
beer, maybe.
I do like to get a craft beer on. Just recently got to explore the Abita Brewery, which is awesome here in New Orleans. But anyway, if you think about crafts and you think about the average age of a crafter, even though the millennial generation does dip their toe, you're talking the blue hair, slow walking, kind of folks there, and I love them. My grandma was a crafter. That's who I think of as the core customer. Was my grandma at 70 years old putting around the Michaels. So we go to the Michaels. We get what we're coming for. Real simple grab. We're making our way to the front. There is one checker, which is not surprising. It's not a huge business. Having one checker is not outrageous. However, there's only one spot for a checker. There will never be more than one checker at the Michaels. There's 4 self-checks. However, because of, again, this demographic I'm talking about, everyone is in line for that one poor checker who, should she be on the other side of the counter, would fit right in with the customer base. These folks are not doing self-check. There's a lot of items that can't go through self-check, and nobody understands the fact there's a self-check. My poor wife was directing traffic, sending 6 or 7 people to the self-check, letting them know it was even there. So I am a huge detractor of self-check now, and I know, Nate, you got some opinions on this when you're.
Why didn't you go?
What? I couldn't. The thing we were buying fabric, because I was building this couch in the RV, and the fabric could not go through the self-check because it's measured by the yards. So you have to verify how much you have, so you're not grifting them and taking more fabric.
Man, I think that's the problem. I'm not against the self-check, the concept or the tools of it, but I think the problem lies with how they use it. And
that sound is a re-up of whiskey, in case you were wondering.
I went to, it was probably another time, shouldn't be shopping, but Christmas Eve, and I was out, and I get up to the line. Everybody's in a rush on Christmas Eve, and of course there's, to your point, one checker, and they had to manage the one self-checkout that was open. So no actual non-self-checkouts were open, and they were just managing the one self-checkout. Granted, 7 others had their red light on that were not in service, and meanwhile there's a line of like 7 people on Christmas Eve, half of them dressed up, probably going to dinner somewhere, just trying to grab something quick. And so I think as an establishment, if you're not using it right, and it kind of reminds me of the the kiosks at the food court when first implementing those back in the day. If you don't have the right plan or the right, you're not using it correctly, then it could be a problem. And Aldi's is big now with their self-checkouts. All their newer stores over the past 2 years, I've seen a lot of self-checkouts. And again, if they don't have somebody turning them on, which a cashier has to flip the switch to turn them on, you just got people looking at all these red lights and lining up, and it's, I don't know. Yeah.
It's
probably a
catch
catch-22.
Aldi's had self-check.
Oh yeah,
That was one of the big benefits to me of Aldi's, was that they had a model that made sense. Their cashiers get to sit down, which I totally agree with. I'm not in love with self-bagging, but I understand that more than Menards. Maybe that's a little too local of a chain for folks to relate to, but their checkout system is very similar to Aldi's, but much more like a self-check, just less convenient. But yeah, Aldi's, I was really in love with their model. And it's a shame that they're going into a self-check thing.
I don't know, man. I think, again, financially, you think these are the people that you have to pay for your cart so they can save on labor there. So, and they pay their team members very well and their managers very well. So, if they could save $20 an hour, probably what they're losing in theft of bags and such is probably the juice is worth the squeeze for them on that one. But shout out to Menards Distribution Center. I used to work up in Eau Claire when I was in college, and they paid.
How'd that go for you?
$12 an hour. Oh man, I worked overnight just so I could have the weekends off, because they expected all students to work on the weekends, but to get out of it, I had to work full time, so I worked graveyard.
How was the paint department when you were there?
Oh yeah, that's a low blow. I dropped a pallet of paint. I can't remember how many countless of gallons, but. Yeah, it was slow-mo when the pallet broke and it hit the ground. I was thinking for a second, maybe nothing broke. And then it was like, imagine someone probably jumping off of a stack of pallets that high and hitting the ground, and then all of a sudden just it oozing out. And then there was sheer panic, and there wasn't enough kitty litter and sawdust to... Yeah, we spent a whole day and a half cleaning that up. I got a nice trip to the Concentra, get a drug test. Different story.
I think your comparison is someone jumping off a building. That's what it was like.
Well, yeah, I don't know what we can say, but you see in the movies when something goes hits it.
I saw that happen once. When I lived in Hawaii as a kid, we lived in a neighborhood that was frequented by Magnum PI. For anyone who remembers the original, they would film around there. So they blew up a gas station like right across the street from where we were living. We were living in a high-rise. And everybody got excited about it, but nobody knew what was happening. So anytime something happened, there was a car chase or something, you would assume that it was Magnum filming, because there was so small of an area that they had to film. And there was always, a little car crash, a little explosion, what have you. Well, one day, there is a person on the ground at the face of the building there, and everyone assumed, oh wow, it's a Magnum. No, this gentleman jumped, and that is how my little 6-year-old self learned, what that looks like. Is when I thought, oh wow, this is Magnum, and for years my parents let me believe that until I was an adult, and then they told me that was actually that was real. So shout out to my folks for protecting the young brain there, letting me think that was fake. But yeah, it is exactly what it looks like though.
There it is.
A little creepy.
Moral
Little
of the
creepy
story.
anecdote there.
If you're gonna use self-checkout, use it right.
Way to tie it back. That's perfect.
I was reading Rolling Stones had a article on the leadership reset and pertaining to culture and how it's going to be the big thing here in 2026. I know we've both talked about it once or twice over the past couple podcasts, but their belief is that it's not one of those soft concepts anymore that you just check a box or do to jump through a hoop. So I think that was exciting to see, because I'm a big believer in workplace culture.
First of all, I think it's impressive that Mick took time off his tour to write this article. But second of all, yeah, I definitely think we both agree that culture is number one when it comes to anything in the business world. There's no reason for anyone to follow your drum if you're not beating a beat that is followable, and that is, today and yesterday, I think throughout our careers has hinged on a culture of relatability, respect, listening, taking action on feedback, all those things that kind of go into what we would call culture nowadays.
Yeah, so they were focusing more on, it's not about just a title or, earning the respect that way. It's really about who helps them belong, and feel as they're part of something. It's great. It's great to see an article that big, but I think when I would manage a team, one of the first things I would try to do is set those one-on-one times aside and really get to know them. We had those I can't remember if they're zero gravity chairs or what they were, but lean back, get in a comfortable comfortable location. We had the grass, the turf, made people feel a little bit more comfortable. We weren't in an office setting looking across our desk at them, but you could really get to know your team and then identify what triggers each of them, and not just caring about their work and the progress that they're making there in goals, but their personal goals. So we continue to talk about this culture thing, and it's not going away, clearly.
Yeah, man, it's not a fucking pizza party. That's not enough anymore, and it never really was, but it could be construed that it was at some point. But it is definitely getting to know your folks, changing the workplace, not taking a day or taking an hour to recognize people or what's going on, how they're interfacing with their work, how their workspace is working for them. But it's endemic to the entire work week, work day, work year. Everything has to be revolved around it, and it's much more nowadays, especially if you're employing millennials, Gen Z, Gen Y. Folks have become much more, I don't want to say sensitive because that seems to downplay it, but the expectation is that the culture be centric around the worker, respectful of their wishes, their thoughts, their way of being. I'll use pronouns, for example. That's something we never really had to worry about when we were coming up. But now that could, disrespect the entire workforce were you to use, incorrect ones, depending on who you're working with and who you're employing. And it seems so simple. I've started off 1 million emails with guys. And to me, a la Good Burger, I'm a dude, you're a dude, she's a dude, we're all dudes.
I'm a dick, he's a dick, she's a dick, we're all dicks, hey!
That's not the case. There's a different sensibility at play now that folks have to get behind.
It's mind-boggling how many people just aren't aware, just in general of culture, and to your
it's
point,
not about
you think it's just some. Well, exactly. Some of the bullets they had was connection over control, and cultural intelligence over outdated tradition, purpose over performance. Their points, you can't lead someone you don't understand or know. You could tell them and command them what to do, but you can't lead them, can't motivate them. You can't build off of that. So again, some of us it seems like a no-brainer, but to others it's something they really have to understand. I was going to ask you if there was any departments or properties that you worked at that had this amazing culture, or that you were part of.
Harris Laughlin, man, that's where I got my start, my real start in casinos. I had a small casino job before that, but I came on as a temp. I quit the casino I was working at before. I didn't like the atmosphere, didn't like how it was being managed. Even at that young age, I made that decision to change the culture. I didn't like the culture, and despite the fact that I needed the money, it just wasn't an environment that I thought that I could flourish in. So I became a temp. I started working at different casinos, different jobs around town. I happened to get a couple shifts at Harris Laughlin and connected with the folks there, and because of the culture, people could be people. It wasn't just about get the job done, 8 and skate, clock out, don't talk to anybody before. there was such a familial feel about the place because of how it was run, because of how management allowed for that kind of thing to foment. It wasn't about, and again, this was a different time. There wasn't as much, focus on the bottom line and things of that nature. It was more of take care of the customer, give good customer service, and the understanding of the service was going to be driven by how you treated your employees, and that service would then equate into profit, the service profit chain, which I am sure we could devote an entire episode of this podcast to. That is a big belief of mine. But yeah, Harris Laughlin in the late 90s, early 2000s, unmatched for me, unparalleled with culture for anything I've ever encountered before or since.
I'm sure Lockie would love to jump on and be a special guest for that service profit chain episode.
Oh, you are more than welcome, Scott. We're coming for you, buddy.
So I find it interesting that you're, from a culture standpoint, you go back to where you started, and I think probably the trend is that with an established place like Laughlin that had been around for decades, and with gaming, starting in Nevada so long ago, that I remember celebrating a 50-year anniversary for some table games dealers and such when I was out in Tahoe. But I think back to my best environment that I was in, and we were led by a great manager and director. What we did was we truly embodied that it was a family, right? And from graveyard, going out cooking on the beach, barbecuing, drinking the next morning or once you got off, to hiking up Mount Talac, doing nighttime hikes, and everything was just related around the job. That again, you were ingrained into it, even outside of work, which gave you more of a motivation to bust ass when it came to those New Year's Eve nights or the Fridays and Saturdays, and we're rip roaring in high limit, coin in, topping 10, 20 million, pumping out jackpots left and right. But we were like a fine, oiled machine, and just working together. And it was because of that, not wanting to let that other person down, but it was natural too. And so that culture was ingrained already into most of those team members because they had been there so long. The average team member probably 15 years plus in my department at that time. And I just had to form, right into the mold that they had already set, right? What the expectation was. Now, granted, you kind of flirting a line there when you start getting involved outside of work, and you definitely got to be careful in what you're exposing yourself to, because there were times where supervisors, bringing their drink tickets or their stamp back in the day, and they just bam, 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 you're drinking all night with them. I remember a time where I had to talk to a team member about not coming in smelling of alcohol after the whole team was out drinking that afternoon, and he chose not to stop. It was definitely a lesson that I had to practice what I preached moving forward, because he called me out a couple times about sitting at the bar until 8 in the morning and then coming to clock in at 10. And yeah. But again, no shame or knock on, no shade to most recent endeavor up here in Ohio. But gaming is so new here, over the past 10, 12 years, it's just so new that it takes time. And if it's not a focus or an effort, it takes even that much more. And it obviously impacts turnover, as we know, which you're constantly fighting an uphill battle when it comes to then that culture on your team and your department.
Yeah, in my opinion, culture begets culture. So what I was able to experience is they had gotten the culture right, which, similar to what your story was in Tahoe, that made for long-term employees. Those long-term team members then make almost a subculture where there's that social safety net. I'll tell a quick story if you got time. When I started, like I said, I was a temp. I hadn't even made full-time. Well, obviously, I was hired on full-time eventually. So I may have still been a temp, or I may have just started full-time. But it was Christmas time. And then these gals, these waitresses at the restaurant that I was working at, adopted me basically. Like my grandpa had just died the year before. We were flat broke, 100% broke. We were living in a hotel, my brother, myself, my grandma, in a hotel room, and they adopted us for Christmas. And so they were able to provide this Christmas dinner, Christmas presents for my grandma, for my brother, for myself. Made this whole big deal about, oh, you're part of the team now, and you're in a situation. So of course we're going to take care of you. So it was just having that level of autonomy for people to make good decisions, that level of trust in your team members that makes them into longer term team members. That makes them into mentors for people that are coming on, not because it's their job, but because it is what they want to do. It's what they want people to fit into the family, and so they have that ownership over the operation. You see it everywhere. You see it at diners. You see it at bars with long-term bartenders. You see it a lot of places where the team has taken that initial culture, and that initial culture must have been good enough to hook them, to engage them, to empower them to do this, and they make that new subculture that could be departmental, that could be enterprise-wide, but they take that ball and run with it because there is that trust, there is that listening from management, there is that empowerment from management, there is the idea that we are more than just a bottom line, but also the well-being of our employees, the mindset of our employees is going to lead us down that road to profit. And again, Scott, we're coming for you. We're going to talk the service profit chain, because that is one of the best in my life, one of the best examples of the service profit chain really proving itself.
Did they make you get like the Yellowstone brand when you got to be part of the family, and you always belonged?
It was before that. Things were different then. I did have to eat a piece of bread soaked in water, which was gross, but it's not that.
How's that red breast today?
Oh, man. Now, this is just the 12-year. They also have the 15-year and...
21-year.
Is there a 21?
I think a 21 and a oak. I think that might be the 15, actually.
Yeah, I remember the younger one. Usually the older ones were my favorite, but I remember the younger one in this one is definitely my favorite. I remember we had the 12, we had the 15, and we had a specialty aged one on some special oak. It started with an N. I can't remember what it was. When we were responsibly drinking in the cab of a U-Haul, as one does, guided tasting, as I recall, as this was a COVID era tasting where we got to enjoy a Zoom call along with that to get us to enjoy that to the most, which I think we did. I'm going to go move some boxes tonight. I don't even have any. I'm going to go buy some boxes and move them.
Yeah, work up that lather. There's nothing like a little lather to go with your red breast. Pour one up for Barry. He walked us through that tasting for sure.
This is definitely, I could almost see how this would be a preferred drink after a long day's work. It has almost a refreshing character. Now, I don't know if that describes it right, but for an Irish whiskey, it really does have a nice note of effervescence, if you will. Just like a high note of flavor. That's my
smash the shit out of this if anybody wants it.
Well said. Smash the shit out of it. You got a paperclip for us? A post-holiday gift wrapped paperclip?
Yeah, I got a box of them. Actually, want to pour one out for all the workers from Christmas over the holidays to New Year's. I remember what it was like in the hospitality industry and many other industries when someone's got to be there, someone's got to be helping out with that smiling face and still giving great service. And I ran into quite a few who I made sure to thank over the holidays here, but without them, we don't have those basics. So appreciate everyone who did work over the holidays, even though we took a little break. We're appreciative of you guys.
Yeah, shout out to all the fast food workers, gas station workers, casino workers, obviously, we definitely feel those guys. Nurses, first responders, anybody that's having to work a schedule that doesn't allot for bank holidays to have off, the time away from your family, especially when some of your family has that time off. Can't be easy, never is, never was. Definitely big appreciation and pour one out to those cats.
That reminds me too, when we were at our last job, didn't you walk around with another gentleman and deliver donuts and such on Christmas, even though you didn't have to be there? I remember you guys coming through the offices trying to sling those, but that was a nice little touch.
Yeah, no, my dude Scott, somebody we worked with for a number of years, brought that from his Las Vegas operations, and definitely something that I wish would have been my idea, frankly. It is a great cultural piece, but on Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day, he and I would come down to the casino. Obviously, from a management level, there was no need to be there. Most people were off, not a lot of business that day, but the folks that couldn't be off, because it's a 24/7 business, as everybody in it knows, those folks, we just bring some Dunkin' Donuts, come down, make sure everybody had the opportunity to get one, said thank you, had some appearance. We had a few folks that would join us along the way every once in a while. Managers that really cared about the operation, that really wanted to make sure that people understood that. But it was just showing that you don't have to, when you show up when you don't have to be there, that's when you really show up. If you had to be there and you had a great moment, that's a great moment. But if you show up when you didn't have to be there, that's a special moment. You're sharing your personal time with that team and showing them that it's much more than just, the 9 to 5, clock in, clock out kind of culture. Or at least that's
there's some of those little things we talked about that not everybody gets, but you guys definitely got it. So
shout out to Scott Schaefer. He'll never listen to this podcast, but if you do, shout out to you, big guy. And with that, Raising Spirits is a new standard podcast hosted by Will Hockney and Nate Geeson and produced by Ashley Kuba. Theme music by Marcus McLaughlin. Musical director, Angel Flowers. Raise our spirits by following us on socials at Raising Spirits Podcast or visiting newstandardconsulting.com/raisingspirits.
giggity.